Okay, cool. It has been a long time since I've done any particular live streaming, so welcome back if you're watching. I think it's been years even since I've really done much actual streaming, and the idea I have for this particular stream is to play some games, pull some screenshots from some games, and then do some sketching based on that. We'll do some digital sketching right now. Um, Other times we'll do some analog sketching and use some get out the pens and ink and everything. Lately, I've been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey and just taking some in-game screenshots and some just like general Steam screenshots. So we're gonna get started with the sketch here. Um, Kind of like look through the gallery here. Let's make the view bigger. See what has the potential for interesting compositions here. When I'm doing this, I'm looking for compositional shapes primarily. Trying to find things that have good sort of like exit points and everything. We could also do some object sketching and not really worry as much about like fully realized compositions. But I think it'd be cool to do something kind of perspective based, um, or something that has interesting shapes in it. That one has potential, though that's a bit funky. I like the idea of the rock arch, but there's nothing like on the bottom to make it particularly interesting. Although using the rock arch as like a framing device could be cool. This could be a good reference right here. This screenshot. They're not like perfectly ideal. It could work. Also need to access like the in-game screenshots and maybe pick something from there. I promise we'll get started soon. Like with the actual drawing. Let me find my. Oh, I think you have to log into like the web page to do it. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is really interesting if you like art history, especially. Okay, cool. I found it. I think we'll do some like um, simple kind of drawing. Um, Maybe do a little perspective drawing. I got some stuff that's good from the photo mode that could be really fun to draw. I think this could be interesting, just like a simple um, this sort of thing. Just a simple column. Draw more of the structure of it. That could be good. Let's look through. Sometimes simple subject matter is sort of like the best thing you could possibly do. On the more complicated end, it might be interesting to do something like this. This could be fun. Maybe we'll do that. And we're going to make this really small to start with and then go from there. Okay. So whenever I start out, I like to start out with perspective, even in landscapes, and just do a simple grid. So we're going to set this up. We've got about the 2/3 horizon line. So we start here with the horizon line, and then we're going to pick sort of a perspective location, and it looks like just off center. Hi. For this, we're going to do perspective grid both in the sky and the ground here. So we're going to extend some quick lines like all the way around. And then turn this down to 20% opacity. Then we're going to put our brush size down, do our first initial sketch layers here. So what we have here is, this is all going to be water down here. We've got a rocky outcropping here. So I think we start with this sort of shape and define where this is going to go. So it's going to go past the halfway mark and just sort of do this. And we're going to oversimplify this on layer 1. We're going to have a dock that crops out here that does go in perspective and is going to take up like this sort of box. Then we're going to have a landmass come out from here, snake out, go up to about the halfway point here. Then this is going to go above the horizon for sure. And go upwards like that. We're going to extend the height of that. And then we've got a second landmass coming back out here. We'll see little bits of it crop through. And the water, of course, is going to end right at our horizon line. So we may have to like extend stuff up and move it. And then our clouds are going to go in perspective, and we're going to kind of like see the bottom of the clouds and then see more of them as we go up, and we're going to build the volumes up from there. And use the clouds to kind of like finish off our compositional shapes. Sort of like that. Then we're going to turn our perspective grid down even less opacity, and then we're going to turn this opacity down. And now we can go in and actually start drawing for real. Work on getting a more finished line drawing. Now this is kind of a night scene. It'd be totally different if we're working on like a daytime scene. In terms of how the lighting and value structure would work. Here we're going to need kind of like a couple layers of rocky areas. And then what we want to do is like use a little bit of a grid to like roll over here on top of this in our sketch. So we can kind of see a little bit of what's going on. Then the dock goes over here. It's going to go in perspective towards our vanishing point. There's looks like there's stuff on the dock. We have to give it a little bit of depth here with some like piers and beams and stuff. There we go. Let's get some loose line layers going. Now here, we're gonna go here, up, over. We're gonna go to this little tower. Then we're gonna have this dip down some. And this is gonna go much higher than the reference because I think that's more interesting. Can't really see because this is all gonna be in silhouette, so we don't really have to worry too much about what um, what's happening like inside the detail. We just want to be detailed about the silhouette itself. And then I can't tell in the reference if there's more land masses behind that. So let's pull this back up and fit on screen. No more land masses behind. There is a little bit on the left there, so we're going to add that on the left. Hitting below the horizon, of course. And it's going to be small and close to the horizon because it's further away. And then for water, we have some reflections going on, but mostly water is a gradient with like a little zip at the back. But we want this idea that there are some little bits of indication of perspective here because of that. But we'll start to make it a little more organic and wavy rather than rigid and straight. And then we can look at some of the clouds for inspiration. And we're going to do basically an overlap. So overlaps, we're going to start sort of front to back and work. What we want to do to use the perspective grid is use the bottom of the cloud to sort of help define it. So this little bottom of the cloud is going in perspective, right? So we can use our perspective grid to kind of help that along. Draw out the bottom of the cloud there. Then we have another cloud that's going to be in front here. Same deal, that's going to go in perspective. Then we're going to see the bottom of the next cloud, but not as much of the bottom. And then so on like that. So here, I think what's interesting about drawing clouds like this is that it now serves like a functional purpose. It's not just like aesthetic or to show anything in particular, but it's like really, we're like using the clouds to increase the amount of depth that we get in the scene. Now we can probably turn this off, maybe even turn off the grid. And now we're left with some simple shapes. So we can start immediately like kind of value mapping this out. And what's important now is not that the values are correct, but that we get them down. So we're going to go basically build this up from the sky layers forward. So we're going to go to our horizon line, and then we're going to take our gradient tool here, pick sort of a middle value, and the sky is going to get lighter as we go away from us. So we need the correct gradient. So we're going to do something like that to kind of mimic the sky here. We might even go a step darker since it's supposed to be kind of more of a night scene. And then we're going to select the inverse area here, and then we're going to do a water gradient, which generally speaking is going to be a little lighter and go opposite that. Um, so now we have a kind of our water gradient taken care of. We would probably want to break that up if we're going to be like really, really accurate. But then now what we need to do is go through here and establish some different shapes and everything. Um, so we're going to use our just like a quick lasso bucket method tool for that. We've got Kyle's super lasso here, which I highly recommend if you um, like drawing like this or draw like this frequently, because it saves a lot of time in the Photoshop environment. You don't need it if you're drawing with Procreate um, or Clip Studio or something. Because that's a built-in function of those programs. But this is not built into Photoshop. Um, you can do it manually without, paying like the 12 bucks for the tool um, by switching between the lasso and the bucket tool or the fill tool. And that's a method a lot of people use to sketch, and it works really good. I highly recommend it. We're going to tune this layer probably a little darker because it is sort of our darkest like front layer. And then we'll use the same value kind of for the dock, and then we're going to get lighter as we go away. Um, yeah, we got a lot of dark areas here. So we're going to just like get a bunch of value covered over here. Next layer, that should have been on another layer. So we got to turn super lasso off and then get this area selected and then bounce that to another layer. So we're going to do layer, new layer via cut. And so that's going to go in that spot and add a new layer. And then since we're going backwards, that should go back here. This layer is going to go back and it's going to go under. And then we're going to pick, turn super lasso back on, and then we're going to go one swatch lighter and start selecting out this area. I know a lot of concept designers start this way, and then some, like, I know some films and stuff, like their layout artists and stuff, work like this to sort of uh, actually do their initial black and white layouts before passing it off to the color teams. This is a really good sketching method, like digital sketching method. Um, and you can actually paint like this too, and do like fully realized pieces this way. Works just fine. What's cool about working in layers though, oop, that's a tangent. Need to move that down. Um, if you work like this and kind of like work carefully within your layer stack, and kind of work with complete shapes, then you can actually move the shapes around if you need to and mess with them. Then we're going to go one lighter and add a new layer, and then this one's going to go back here. That's all of our land masses. Um, so we need to take this water layer and probably we even may need to actually darken the background to like a middle or like that value. So maybe we'll fill the background like that, bring it down like a notch. Um, And then we may need to sort of like paint over the water layer here with like a brush tool, a different brush, something like this soft feather one to kind of get some things happening that aren't yet. Like I think we need a thin line right at the back to help with that. And then we need some striations in the water, so we need to kind of have things like this happen to sort of show the fact that there's like undulation and waves and progression. And then we need to show reflection too, so we need to get some stuff like this into the water. So this is going to help kind of like integrate all this together, I believe. And then we may have to sort of darken everything again a little more. Just to make sure this works. Then we're going to have to do clouds as well. But we're going to have to do that above this layer stack. So we can use sort of these dark values again. Same brush this out. And then there is going to be kind of like a light source in the background behind the clouds, but above the sky. So probably right here. And then we're going to do gradient tool, use the round gradient, go back to our pure white, and then put that sort of off camera, but up here. And then probably make that big, like it'll go over the whole thing. And then we're going to lower the opacity so that it's not so stark. Something like that. And then that's going to allow some white to get into the clouds here. So above this cloud layer, we're going to do stuff like this. We're going to get kind of like bright pops on the sides of the clouds. Going all the way back. And then we might need actually some rim lighting on some of these shapes. So here we could basically go over there, select this layer there, and then we can catch like, that's too dark. We're gonna do like mid-value, like rim lighting here. Just catch some light along here in bits and pieces. Nothing major, but just to show that there's some lighting effects here. And then we're gonna do that for pretty much every layer. Boom, control click that. Kind of get the top surface different from the bottom of the dock. And then this one right here, we're gonna, boom, add a layer. Control click that sucker. And then we're gonna get, we need to be smaller, so we're gonna get some like tiny little bits of rim light here. Just introduce some of the shapes that are on here within it. Pick out the occasional thing, but not tons, right? It doesn't have to be like extensive. Now we can go through and have fun more with line. I like to do more line layers and line work. Boom. Go back to this. So I think in our reference we do see a lot of like little smaller and sub shapes here. So now is the time we're gonna kind of zoom in a little more and work on this in a little more detail. I think the level of detail that we have here is probably okay. Um, for this front area, we can get into the dock a little bit more if we want. You know, actually put some planks there. We can bring some of the dock shapes up while still trying to keep them in perspective. Make this look more like an actual dock. Then we're going to switch the plank direction to go with the perspectival direction. And then this dock shape, we're going to change a little bit. We're going to cut into it so that we can kind of see through. Then go back up to our line layer and kind of work on what it is we're seeing through here. There. It's always good to have more shapes kind of shining through. Poking holes and stuff is really good. Then as we go to here, we want to get a little more like interest and volume out of the sort of mid-ground area. So we can draw some like organic rocky facets down here. So we transition right around here from like rock to the built environment. And then we do have like a little bit of a beach transition, but it's pretty steep right here. And this kind of like rolls down at this point. And then this is kind of like a wall, which we can sort of see in the screenshot here. Then we're going to continue the wall this way and have it kind of like roll out and end at some point and be part of the ruin system. And then this is all going to be like trees and stuff. But like groups of trees and things. Then that silhouette can stay kind of how it is. Then as we go back here, we kind of have like the same thing sort of going on. Got like, we'll add a little tree here. Olive tree probably. Can add little bits of vegetation. There's birds in the screenshot, which is kind of cool, and it's raining too. So it's kind of nice. Maybe we add that do some like do some rain effects on top. Just take like our white and make the brush a little bit large. Whoops, that was a big one. That was too big. Don't like it. And then we need a good variety of like sizes of marks so that it feels like it's kind of got depth to it as well. Create like a little more atmosphere. We could probably work on the keep working on the line layer for things like these reflections and stuff like that. Make them more like watery, but also like more specific to what's here. Outline them a little bit. Not sure if I like that stuff on the waves. Better to keep it simple, I think. It'd be cool if we had some figures in here too, like people on the docks going about whatever it is that they're doing. And then maybe we could add figures in the foreground. That could be fun. Just like somebody standing there on the edge of the thing getting rained on. Play around with the shape here. Maybe they're standing there, got their thing going on. Maybe somebody over here is like sitting down on the edge. Kind of surveying the scene. Whoops. Camera fell over. There we go. There, we've got a quick sketch. We could do like a quick color overlay too. Um, Kind of give it the blue feel that this has. So we could go into like the blue violet stages, more true blue. Nothing too saturated. We can actually do a color blend mood and just like bucket fill this whole thing. Give it kind of this mood. And then we could do the image adjustments. Do a color balance adjustment to kind of bring this more towards a good color, bring it towards like greens, blue greens. Cool it down like that. Make it kind of like a monochrome. That can be fun. And then maybe that's not ideal that it's over the whole thing. Would be cool would be to um, take that, select the light gradient that we had, and then give that a different color. Do color blend mode, and then take the take an orange light or like a yellow orange, and then we'll just fill that, and then lower the opacity some so it's more subtle. It's not big enough, that gradient. So let's get the gradient tool, deselect this, and then let's try this ourselves. Just do like a very large gradient. Um, Zoom out, make it even bigger, because we want the color to go across the whole thing if we can. Yeah, and then let's do that, and then we'll lower the opacity down. And that gives us kind of like a bit of color projection and variation over the whole thing, which is cool. So we'll start there. I think we're gonna stop the stream there and call this sketch done for now. We might develop some of these sketches fully later, but um, you know, it's a good time. Thanks for watching. I appreciate everybody, and hope you enjoy the game and draw stream. We'll do some mixture of gaming and drawing, probably multi-streamed on Twitch too.